afternoon. Welcome to the Steelers Sanctuary Podcast. I'm Leanne. I'm here with Zach, Bob, David, and Dave to preview the Raiders game that's coming up week 6 and talk a little bit about the latest news this week. Before we kind of go into the couple of topics we have a few kind of news items with the injuries that are going on. Tomlin said this week that Alex Highsmith is definitely out. DeMonte KZ is doubtful. Jalen Warren is also doubtful. Nick Herbig will be out, and DeMarvin Leal will be out, and Bentley has a squeaky ball. Russell Wilson was a full participant this week, so that's good news. And then, strangely, Pat Freiermuth popped up on the injury report today with a calf. I know Zach said he saw somebody reported that he's fine and it wasn't serious, so fingers crossed that that's true because we can't afford to have any more injuries. So I think one of the biggest topics that's coming up this week is that Russell Wilson was finally a full participant at practice, and the debate has begun anew as to whether he should be the starter this week against the Raiders or if we should be giving Justin Fields another chance. And then if Justin Fields is given another chance, how long his leash is. So what do you guys think? Where do you stand on the Russ versus Justin debate? Dave, you want to start with you?
Sure. I think this is Justin Fields' biggest game of his career. If he struggles in this game, he may not start again this season. I think Mike Tomlin is dying to put Russell Wilson in. I think we've talked about that in the past. And one more shaky start against the Raiders, and he might not even make it through the whole game. I think Tomlin might have a hook ready for him if things start to go bad early.
What about you, David?
Me personally, I'm starting Justin Fields, make Russ the backup. If he struggles, then put Russ in. Like I said last pod. Here's the thing. They're 26th in passing. They're 26th in points per game. So that's not good. So he had a really good game against the Colts, but this last game he struggled. And I don't know, man. Like if he doesn't get that offense moving, then it's time to make a change.
I think he probably will have a short leash. He shouldn't. I think this is just the height of arrogance to pull this kid out. I don't understand. Did he play his best game against Dallas? No. But bottom line is, with 5 minutes to go, he gave us the lead. And all we had to do was try to hold it 17-13. As bad as he played, he engineered 2 second-half touchdown drives. The week before, he engineered 3 second-half touchdown drives. I don't get it. I think if you hook this kid off the field, you are guaranteed that we are not going to see him re-sign with the Steelers. And all of that just for maybe marginal difference with Russell Wilson. I think it's beyond ridiculous. The only thing I will say about this, and I've been thinking about this a lot, is the Steelers have a tremendous amount of cap space next year. Maybe this is the only way that Omar Khan knows to figure out how to do a complete teardown in Pittsburgh and start over, is to let Mike Tomlin make the dumbest decisions possible and destroy the team's chances this year.
It's good you're not being dramatic about it at all.
And by the way, Bob, I agree with you on that. I don't think they should hook Justin Fields in the middle of the game unless it's a complete disaster, because confidence is such a big part of quarterback. And if you yank this kid, you've lost all his confidence, and it's going to spiral from there.
I agree, because a couple of things are flipped this week, and that's the big thing. It seemed like in preseason and all that we were talking about the fact that you can't go to Justin Fields from Russell Wilson and expect to go back. It's the reverse now. You cannot expect to go from Justin Fields to Russell Wilson when pulling Justin Fields for any reason at this point would be the height of knee-jerk reaction. Like worse than my knee-jerk reaction after the game a minute ago. Because if it was the preseason, I told you that we were going to be 3-2 with Justin Fields starting every single game. He had 961 passing yards, 5 touchdowns to 1 interception, and he had 3 rushing touchdowns. We'd be ecstatic. But when we're looking at it in this weird Madden perspective of, oh, it's Russell Wilson, we have to bring him in regardless of what happens, it damages the young guy. And I am, number one, I am incredibly impressed with how Justin Fields has handled this. Everyone has said that this kid is the height of class. He's the height of professionalism. He has shown everything you want him to do in the face of people saying for no reason that he should be pulled. There's no reason. It's because we're Pittsburgh. That's probably why. So it's ridiculous. And Kaboli, people need to not have this take anymore.
I just want to say one other thing too about this whole Wilson deal. It doesn't make sense to bench the 25-year-old kid who's playing decent. It just doesn't make sense. I don't understand. Forget about the fact that he's more mobile. He gives us a chance to move the ball. They're both free agents. Why is it that, just to bring it up, and I know we're going to talk about it, why is it that the 23-year-old wide receiver who apparently can't get in game shape can't jump on a moving train, but the 36-year-old quarterback with a bad calf can jump on a moving train? Somebody explain that one to me.
I will say too that I think that the one thing that I keep going back to is I think you have to think about now, but you also have to think about your future. And I feel like Fields provides that future. When I look at the Cowboys game that we lost, I feel like the issues we had were schematic. It wasn't like Justin Fields was out there throwing interception after interception or fumbling the ball or botching the snap. So I don't feel like the issue was necessarily with him. And you say, oh, well, we would have won and been perfect if we just plug in this other quarterback. And so I think that the issue to me seems like it's bigger with the offense. Like maybe it's bad plays, maybe it's the bad running game, maybe it's the crummy offensive line, maybe it's the lack of targets. But I don't think that the problem was necessarily Justin Fields. And I agree with Zach that he did everything he could, to try to bring us back. But because the offense had been engineered so badly early in that game, our defense was exhausted by the time we got to that final, game-winning drive.
There's no doubt that Fields is a part of the problem in that game that we just saw. But, he isn't the only problem. It's several things. There's no doubt. When your wide receivers are last in the league in separation, they can't get open. What the hell are you as the quarterback supposed to fucking do? Right? I mean, you can't stay in the pocket and get murdered. You
that's the elephant in the room, right? These wide receivers are terrible. And how do you grade a quarterback?
Our running back had our most receiving yards. That should never be a thing.
Correct.
And from what we are hearing, he's being preached to protect the ball. In his ear is protect the ball. And if you're looking and your guys are not getting separation, and the only guy you trust the wingspan of, right? And I'm not. Some of the plays is not putting in the effort you would expect from your number one wide receiver. Justin Fields is doing what he can. And it's very important to state this thing. We have seen one of the Justin Fields horrible plays that we always thought were going to plague him this season. One. That one backwards weird run worth a fall. Other than that, we haven't seen it. And I know all of us held our breath when that happened. We're like, oh, here we go. Dude picked himself back up and has been everything we want in a starting quarterback. Considering that we just went from Kenny Pickett to this, you'd think that we would all be so much happier as a Steeler community. But we need to cause drama amongst ourselves for some reason. We're not a fandom. Everyone calm down.
The problem really for the quarterbacks in this, and Justin Fields in particular, is the margin for error is as small as you can possibly imagine. He had one open receiver, really open, Connor Hayward, and he missed him. You can't miss because that's the only opportunity you're going to have all game. Because the way this offense is structured and the personnel on this team, no one's open. They don't scheme people open. So he's got one shot, and if you miss it, you're cooked. So now, will Russell Wilson be better at that? I don't think so. It's not a quarterback problem. It's a talent problem. There's not enough talent on offense to be successful.
I think that segues really nicely into talking about what Bob brought up with the wide receiver, and not just Roman Wilson and the fact that, he's been practicing, I think since week 2, he's been a full participant. And then the comments today about how he isn't, game ready or whatever they said. I know that they're talking about him not attending training camp, being able to participate, and maybe not being quite ready to be out there on the field full time. But what do you guys think about this wide receiver issue? How do we fix this problem? I think it sounds very simplistic to say go out and get somebody. Do you know what I mean? But if that doesn't seem like that's as realistic as we'd hoped it would be. So start the other direction. Zach, what do you think?
It means Arthur Smith has to go back to the drawing board. And I this is where it's going to determine how good of a coordinator Arthur Smith is, because like in the beginning, I always knew that the jump from Canada to Smith would be massive, and we've seen that chasm. It's been big. But now the expectations have to raise. Are you a legitimate NFL coordinator? We've had injuries. We've had stuff not working. You've had a quarterback change. Go back to the drawing board and fix this, because if you are being commanded, as some of us assume, to run a conservative offense, that's your job now. Make it work. If you go to Khan and Khan's like, I'm not going to go out and get that big guy, you know what you have to work with. So this next game, this next stretch of games, to me, especially with the way the Jets are playing and these are all winnable games to me coming up. And they're games that we should be able to out-scheme the other team. It's not just winnable. We cannot afford to be outcoached. And on any side of the ball, but especially so to me, it's on all on Arthur Smith, because he knows what he has to work with. He knows what team he came with. He knows what head coach he came with. He knows the roster that he got when he came here. So do what you're supposed to do with it.
And I'll just say, look, there's a lot of fans, and I've seen this on social media. Oh, well, Kenny Pickett was averaging 18 points a game, and Justin Fields is only averaging 18 points a game. It's not the same 18 points, people. We're 12th in the NFL in third down conversions. We are not going 3 and out on every drive, although the last couple of weeks it's felt like it in the first half. They are putting, and even these 5, 7, 8 play drives that result in a punt are important to rest the defense. That's why I don't 100% buy the argument Leanne threw out that the defense was just so tired. They had a couple decent drives in the second half of that game. That was a long drive they put together after the Joey Porter interception. The defense was rested. I'm not going to say they were the most rested they could have been, but they weren't. It wasn't like last year where they were on the field for 40 minutes. Our time of possession is better. So do I think that Arthur Smith is doing better than Matt Canada? Yeah, but that's a really low bar. But we are doing things to rest the defense. As far as getting a wide receiver, I mean, if I'm a team in the NFL and Pittsburgh calls me for a wide receiver, I know what your condition is. I want a first. I may trade Davante Adams for a third, but I'm not trading him to Pittsburgh for a third because you're desperate. You need to do it. And Omar is not going to do a desperate deal. But if I'm the other GM, I heard Mike Florio kind of make this point that a few years ago, or a couple of years ago with the whole trade deadline, and, hey, people, I forget the quarterback he mentioned, but they held on and they held on and they held on. And all of a sudden somebody gets hurt. You need a quarterback, and they get what they want for the quarterback. So, yeah, people are going to hold out.
Schefter said today that no one in the NFL is willing to give them a second-round pick for Davante Adams. No one. So, I mean, they're at this stopgap. I feel like the Steelers, I was shocked. I thought the Steelers would give a second-round pick for him.
I think if they wait long enough, Omar will crack and give a second. I don't have any doubt about it. He's going to get desperate. I guarantee you. Look at this offense. Look at these wide receivers. We talk about Van Jefferson was on pace for 200 yards this season receiving. It's a clown show.
I think the problem is the money, Dave. If you look at it, I mean, yes, everybody expects it to be that they're going to void and not pay him. The Raiders were never going to pay him that money, but they would have had to either renegotiate or release him. So are you going to give up a second-round draft pick for Davante Adams as a rental? And that's all he would be, because
no, I think I saw someone reported that the Steelers want him long term. They don't want
the Steelers don't see him as a rental.
Redo and have him for
2 years. They want to negotiate with him.
He's a 32-year-old receiver too.
And it doesn't
don't
even
know.
have to be one of those big guys. I took a look at the wide receiver free agent list in the NFL compared to what we have. It's a treasure trove. Like I looked at it, I'm like, oh my God, there's so many people I would like to have on our football team. Why are they? Why? It's
Yeah,
frustrating, and it
definitely.
makes me feel. Omar Khan's supposed to be the con artist, and right now I'm
Yeah.
feeling con.
So
I
for
think they
me,
should just give Adams what he wants and do it for this season. To hell with a 2-year deal. Do you know what I mean? Like we
Yeah.
need him now, and then we can find
Absolutely.
somebody in the draft or free agency or whatever it is. But I don't know why we're quibbling and trying to keep him long term. He's old.
Yeah, I agree.
He's not.
100%.
He's not that old. He's 32. He's still a top 10 wide receiver in the
But
NFL.
he's been injured and injured and injured.
32 is old for a receiver.
He's not injured and injured and injured. He's injured now. He caught 100 passes for 1,200 yards last year.
I'm not disputing that the guy's good. I'm just saying that his clock is ticking. It's running down. Do you know what I mean? So if you're talking about this massive contract for him, it doesn't make sense to me. I think you make him happy for this year, give him an opportunity to show off, and maybe either stay in Pittsburgh or get picked up by another team that's willing to pay him.
but here's my thing. What I wanted to say earlier was the simple answer to this question is how does George Pickens, Devontae Adams, and Roman Wilson sound like as your top three? Sounds pretty fucking good, right? That's the short answer to this. Simple answer, we'll say. Long answer, first off, maybe change the route trees for your wide receivers. 2, how about we actually feature Pat Freiermuth? Actually make him your number 2. Just a thought. And 3, let your quarterback change the play at the line of scrimmage if he sees something he doesn't like. Just a thought. If you go out there and you're the say the Cowboys any opposing defense, and you know the offense can't change their play, but you watch the film and know when they do certain setups what they're probably going to do, guess what? They're very predictable, and you can just crush them. When we did that 3rd and 8 sweep, they said this week there was something that they had liked that the Cowboys were doing in that situation, but it wasn't there. Okay, then, if it wasn't there, why didn't you let your fucking quarterback change the goddamn play? It just is so stupid, guys. It makes me so mad when I hear this stuff. Any other quarterback in the league can change the play, but somehow Mike Tomlin makes ours. You're not allowed to do that.
Well,
I can understand that in the first or the second game. It's game 5. You've started all of them, and through everyone speaking highly of you. You're professional. What more does Justin Fields have to do?
Right.
Or is it simply Ben was the only one who was allowed to change plays in Pittsburgh? You have to be Ben Roethlisberger to change plays at the line.
Well, hold on. I heard this week one of the guys, I think it was from Pro Football Focus, talking that there's only 10 or 12 quarterbacks in the league who can change plays at the line of scrimmage, and it gives those 10 or 12 teams such an advantage on offense against everybody else. So it's not just a Steeler thing. Although it's maddening because we haven't had a coordinator who said, "Oh yeah, just go ahead and change the play at the line of scrimmage."
Right.
The real question is, if you can't change the play at line of scrimmage, and that's the whole justification of putting Wilson in, well, what if Wilson can't change the play at the line of scrimmage? We think he's going to improvise?
That's a good point, actually.
Yeah.
And that would actually make me more upset if Wilson came in and they were like, you know what? Yeah, change the line, change the play, go ahead. I would be furious. Oh my God, if I was Justin Fields, I would ask for a trade that day.
Yeah, I'd be hot. I'd be pissed if I was Justin if they did that, honestly.
Unless Russell goes out there and he just changes it because, hey, I'm 36. I don't give a shit. I'm not going to be here next year anyway.
Well, that might be a good thing, honestly. I hear Zach talk about, the offensive coordinator's got to call better plays, and Dave say, let's change the route trees. Guys, you can't make chicken soup out of chicken shit. The talent at wide receiver is just not there. And it doesn't matter what Arthur Smith does. It doesn't matter if, they can change plays at the line of scrimmage or not. This wide receiver room is just not good enough. And that's why I think Omar gets desperate and makes a trade and gives up more than he should. Just look at it. They're one of the worst. I heard this today, one of the worst yards after play action in the entire league, because nobody gives a shit about play action when the Steelers, because they don't respect the wide receivers. So it doesn't matter if you do. They're playing tight man and loading the box, and they don't care if you run a pass. And that's why they're having so much trouble running the football. And you don't have talent. No one is afraid of the Steelers wide receivers. And now they're seeing George Pickens take plays off, and they're even less afraid of the Steelers wide receivers. They have a multi-pronged problem because they need a wide receiver 2, and they're losing their wide receiver 1. And this is only going to get worse, in my opinion. Because reeling George Pickens back in at this point, that sounds like a monumental task to me. It seems already he's ready to check out. It's on the borderline.
Excellent.
I think they've almost lost him at this point. And I defended him last week because he had to go through 2 years of Matt Canada, and that's more punishment than most wide receivers should have to go through. But this isn't just as an easy fix as trade for Devontae Adams and we're good, because they're about to lose their wide receiver 1, and I don't even know how you fix that now.
I'll say this about George Pickens, and I know that people disagree with me, but my background is as a behavior specialist, and I will tell you, people like Pickens, people like Antonio Brown, who believe firmly that they are in the right and they are being done wrong, the only way that you can get them to produce is to make them think it's their idea and show them that they're benefiting from something. Do you know what I mean? So I know that people were outraged when Mark Gabali said, we'll feed him the ball more, but I actually think something along those lines, making him feel like he's involved in this process, is a better solution when he's all you have to work with. I think sitting him, if he was really punished and had half of his snaps taken away as punishment for whatever, I don't know that that's necessarily effective. It wasn't effective before, so I don't know why it would be effective now. Do you know what I mean? So I kind of think that they needed to change the way they're doing things and make him feel like he's involved in this process.
Well, here's something even scarier. I was listening to Alex Kozora today, and he said George Pickens is not in when they go into their big packages.
Yeah,
it's been like that throughout the whole season. The problem with the Dallas game is they went so much more with the heavy scheme, and that's why he wasn't out there. Not so much a punishment as a coaching decision that they weren't going to have their best wide receiver on the field more often, or even put him in on the heavy packages. So it's not even that. It's bad enough that they're isolating him and he's not in there, but they're choosing not to put him in there.
Right.
Which
But
is
do you
crazy
think they
because
chose not to put him in there as a punishment, or do you think they just made a crappy coaching decision and changed the plays they were going to call?
I think it sounds
I
like
think it has to do with the fact they can't trust him to block.
Well, and then that's
No, they don't use him to block. Mike Tomlin said that that's not part of his job responsibility.
Well,
but that's so stupid because when he does block, he's good.
Yeah, not
you go to
Hines
bottom line is he's the best
right
blocker of the wide receiver group.
Plus,
thank you.
If he's on the field, if you only have one wide receiver on the field and he's the one, you have to respect that. When you have one wide receiver and it's Van Jefferson, nobody gives a shit.
Correct.
Scotty Miller.
We need to put George Pickens in a van and drive him to a warehouse. And when he walks in, it's Hines Ward and a projector. And it's just him staring at him, going over every block he's missed, and then Hines Ward playing his career of blocking people.
But he is a good blocker when he tries. There's video. They show highlight reels of him just destroying people. Like, why in the world you don't put them out there for what you're saying, Dave? And then in general, like, it's stupid. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
It wasn't a punishment. It was a coach's decision how they wanted to play the game against Dallas.
I know we spent a bunch of time as we did our game recap from the Cowboys game, kind of, talking about Najee Harris and his ineffectiveness in the run game and how much better Jaylen Warren and Cordarrelle Patterson are. Now we've got these two guys that were substitute teaching like 3 weeks ago in there. How do we fix this run game? Dave, you want to go first? Go ahead, Zach.
Go ahead.
Really quick. I think Dave hit it right on the head that we have this reversed. It's not that the running game is ineffective. It's that no one cares about our passing game. And when we bring up, everyone's going to say, well, Jaylen Warren and Patterson, Najee Harris is not a receiving threat. Najee Harris is not a receiving threat. When Najee's in there, Najee's running the football. When Jaylen or Patterson are in there, they are more threatening than any of the wide receivers that we have out there, so they have to be watched, which is why when they run, there's larger holes for them. It's not because the offense is magically blocking better for them. It's because when the defense looks and they see Najee Harris back there, they know what's coming at them. They know, or if it's a pass, Najee's not going to get the ball. So it's the wide receivers have to be more effective for this running game to have any chance. And then I'm not even willing to nitpick on the running game right now until our wide receivers can do something to make this passing game respectable.
Thank you for saying that, Zach, because I didn't want to be a broken record harping on the wide receivers, but that's exactly the way I feel. And it is a little disappointing. I expected Arthur Smith to have a better running game right off the shoot, and maybe it's the injuries on the offensive line that have set them back a little bit. I'm sure that's part of it. Jaylen Warren being hurt, he hasn't been 100% all season. That hurts the running game. I guess it's a lot of factors, but I did expect Arthur Smith to have a more robust running game by now than he's had. I don't know. There's a lot of factors, I guess.
For me, it's have the right personnel out there on certain run plays. On the 3rd and 8 sweep, do you know who they had out there blocking? Freiermuth and Van Jefferson. No offense to Muth, not a great blocker. Not offense to Van Jefferson, not a great blocker. Why in the world was Darnell Washington not out there? Or even Connor Hayward's a better blocker than Freiermuth, right? Yeah. Why was George Pickens not out there? If he wants to be a willing blocker, I'd rather have him than Van Jefferson. They don't.
Mike Tomlin will tell you Van Jefferson's the best blocker in the world.
And here's the other thing. They didn't pull the guard on that play either. Please pull the guard more. If you're going to do that kind of play, pull the guard more so you have that third guy out there. Like those are just little things they could do. It just right personnel, pull the guard more to have that extra blocker. And then for Najee, go to the hole you're supposed to. Just a thought too. But just those 3 things is what I've seen that annoy the shit out of me. That I'm just like, dude, why? You guys saw the video of Najee and how many times he cut back and didn't go to the hole that he should have went to. And if he does it, it opens up and he can go. He can get a lot of yards. So those are the 3 things to me to help improve.
Well, there is another way to improve the passing game, and it's something we haven't really done effectively for a very long time. I don't want to say since Bill Cowher, but it's pretty close to since Bill Cowher. Where is the screen game?
Yeah.
Where is the tight end screen, the running back screen? You want to get Najee? We've thrown a couple of screens the last couple of games, and Najee's had the best plays he's maybe had in a Steeler uniform. There is a way to help the passing game by running those screens. And then maybe as you start to suck up and play those screens, now maybe limited wide receivers can get. I'll be honest with you. My biggest fear here is that, fear is probably the wrong word. Pickens is going to have a big game this week. Why? Because everybody has got on his case, and unless they are just beyond crazy, you feature him and you force feed him the ball. I expect him to get maybe 12, 15 targets in this game. But what's going to happen, I think, is Calvin Austin is going to sneak along like he did Vegas last year. Justin Fields or Russell Wilson's going to hit him. There's going to be a couple of fool plays where Scotty Miller, Calvin Austin burn the Raiders down the field, and all of a sudden we're going to think, well, maybe our wide receivers aren't that bad. We need a reliable second guy. A guy, I think Devontae Adams is a pipe dream. I just do. A guy like Slayton from New York, I really hope the Giants lose the next couple of weeks and get out of it, because I think that is a guy who would realistically help our offense. Is he great? No. He's 700 yards, 5 touchdowns. That's what he is for his whole career. That's a second receiver. That's who we need.
We would kill for it. We'd kill for that.
I wanted to say too, because I know, we talked about Najee, I said last time, and one of the things that I keep going back to is the fact that I still think we kind of use him incorrectly. I think we tend to use him on zone, which is a little bit more where Jaylen Warren kind of fits in than really where Najee fits in. I think he's a different kind of running back. I don't want to compare him to somebody like people try to do, but I think he's more of that bruising back. And I agree with Bob. I was going to say the same thing that, back with the Steelers when we were constantly battling the Patriots all the time and they couldn't run against us. One of the things they used to do was switch over to that quick screen game. We had the best defense against the run back then. They couldn't ever get like even 2 yards against us, and they'd switch over to that quick screen game, and all of a sudden they'd start to pick up some yardage against our defense. Our defense back then would adjust. And so we, sometimes would beat them, but other times that was really effective against us and we would struggle to shut it down. So I don't understand why we don't do some more things like that. I said it last time. I feel like with Najee, we're constantly trying to jam like a round peg into a square hole and then blaming him for being round. Do you know what I mean? Instead of square. I don't think that they use him correctly. I do think that there are instances, I agree with David, where he hits the wrong hole or he doesn't read the field correctly. Do you know what I mean? I also think there's some blame to go to the offensive line. But I think a lot of it has to do with scheme.
Yep. And really, really quick, I was watching both on the All 22 and on a couple tweets and all this. There was more than a few plays where I don't know if it's because Broderick Jones is more hurt than he's let on, or if he doesn't care as much as we thought, but he watched guys go by him. And then at one part, I saw him pull up when he could. It was gonna take a little bit of a juke for him to get back there, but it was like in his head, he's like, I can't do that, or I won't. And it's not just him. This offensive line, for all the talent, is not blocking as a unit. Each person is blocking individually, and it's haphazard. So I'm a Najee apologist, so take it for what you will. But when
you're not wrong though, like on Broderick Jones, I was going to bring it up, Zach. You're right.
I think.
But then there's another player that we're saying is quitting on plays. How many guys got to quit on plays before we start blaming the people who are putting them in the position to make the plays?
I don't know who goes in for Broderick Jones. Chris Hoke said today that you watch Zach Frazier. He pushes so hard against these guys. He literally pushes them like off the TV screen. And you watch Broderick just kind of give up.
Yeah. I was going to say the whole line played well except for him. He struggled. And I thought the rest of the guys played well.
We talked about in week one, if you have 4 offensive linemen playing really well and 1 playing bad, you have an offensive line playing bad. So
I've said it before and I'll say it again. They ruined that kid. Moving him back and forth, playing him out of position. They set his career back years. And he probably won't play well until he's off the Steelers.
Well, the one play, Zach, that you were talking about, I know exactly the play you're talking about. Najee, he cut back. He didn't hit the hole he was supposed to, but there wasn't much there either. He cut back, and there was open lane.
Yep.
But Broderick went, oh, my guy's blocked, I'm good, and just stood there. Didn't look for anyone. And Najee actually, I think, kind of chipped into him a little bit because he was, his ass was in front of him. He couldn't get around him because he just stood there. It was like, dude, what are you doing? Get to that second level. Look for that next guy. The play, don't ever stop till that whistle comes. And he didn't do that. He just stood there. And it was almost like he was shocked that Najee was there. It was like, oh, you're here. Okay. But I know exactly the play you're talking about. And Broderick did not have a good game. Sayamalu, he got ran the fuck over in the beginning of that game.
Yeah,
just that one play.
Yeah.
He's still hurt.
Did he come back? Yeah, there we go. He came back a bit too early.
Something's up because he was not the same either. It's his first game, maybe that's it.
I thought he was overall fine. I mean, it was Broderick.
And we don't have to get into that, but just food for thought over the week. Do you think that because this is a self-policing football team, that these guys feel more pressure on themselves to get back out there when they're not ready because it's all on them to get these guys going, like Sayamalu or Warren, or these guys they're like it's up to us? So just food for thought.
So we talked about it kind of in and out as we've been talking so far, but let's talk real quick about Arthur Smith and where we think this offense is. We're just over a quarter of the way through the season. So think of it as high school and you're getting quarterly grades. You know what I mean? You don't have to actually assign him a grade unless you want to. But I think Bob, said it earlier about, the low bar against comparing him to Matt Canada. Do you know what I mean? So I understand that this isn't perfection and I understand that it's better than Matt Canada. But what do you all think about where he is so far this season? Zach, you want to start?
Sure. I'm going to trust the X's and O's experts out there that the underlying foundational stuff is better this season. But we need more points, flat out. We need. We're still not finishing. We're still a bad red zone team. So there's things here that are being carried over from the Matt Canada era that picks. And so it's quick. Same thing I said before, Arthur Smith. If you are the guy we hired you to be and the guy I believed you to be, please fix this now.
I'm just going to say this is a symptom, and I said it on Monday, and I'm going to say it again. This is a symptom of organizational rot. Chuck Noll had it at the end of his tenure. He needed to move on. The Steelers let him move on gracefully. He agreed to move on gracefully. Bill Cowher, there was a time right before his last little run and they got Ben, the end of the 90s was really bad. He probably should have been let go. And he didn't. They survived and they came back. And I think that's really hurting us. And part of this is the organization who doesn't want to move on from Mike Tomlin. But Mike Tomlin, if he really cares about the Steelers, should really think about moving on before this gets much worse. We are over and over, year after year after year now, seeing the same thing. It doesn't matter who's the quarterback, doesn't matter who's the coordinator. Danny Parkins made this point on Fox the other day, and it kind of shocked some of the national media people. For those of you who don't know, used to be Andrew Filipponi's podcast partner, so I don't know how out in left field this take really is from him. But him looking at it and saying that, hey, Tomlin's overrated. He's living off of 15 years ago. And for those Russell Wilson fans who are expecting, they're living off of 10 years ago. We as Steeler fans have got to understand it's time for change. And change might be ugly for a year or two, but it's time for change. If they're not going to make it within the organization, you have to tear it down and start over. It's just the way it is. Now, that being said, could some things change? Yeah, this is still a talented team. This could, if they just all of a sudden go out and cut it loose for a couple of weeks and say, screw it. Whatever happens, happens. And let Justin Fields throw it around. Yeah, I mean, some things could change. Maybe on a first down, you roll him out to the side and maybe he takes off and runs for 50 yards. Who knows? I mean, that's supposed to be what the offense was anyway. I think we're going to be sitting here saying the same things week after week throughout this season that, they could have done this and the wide receivers that. It's excuse me. It's still going to be the same thing. There has to be a major change in Pittsburgh.
As far as like Arthur Smith goes with this whole thing for me, comparing it to Matt Canada, I guess. Look, as I said earlier, 26 in passing, they're 26 in points per game, they're 23rd in total yards per game. Not much has gotten better. I mean, that's just the gist of it, really. I mean, honestly, do I think schematically they're better? Yeah. I mean, I mentioned, the routes for the receivers are still better than Canada's. It's not everyone goes to the boundary and, throw up a prayer, hope that, they're open. But he doesn't feature players like he needs to. I do like more play action. I do like that. We didn't see a lot of that, or it was just obvious what we were going to do if you were under center or in shotgun. That's another thing that I like this year. It's a little more less predictable in that aspect. But overall, I mean, in the end, it's about at the end of the day, what's the product? And the product is still shit. We're averaging 18.4 yards per game, or points per game. Sorry. I think Canada was 16 point something last year?
17.
So,
15.8.
Oh,
17?
just
Right.
Canada. Yeah,
So
just Canada was that.
we're literally less than 2 points different from last year. So what's that tell you? Not good.
I'm going to give Arthur Smith an incomplete right now. I just think there's too many factors working against him. The Jalen Warren injury, the offensive line injuries, the lack of talent at wide receiver. Justin Fields is 5 games into his Pittsburgh career. That's another thing. He had a new quarterback, new coordinator. I think we need more time. I think Arthur Smith is better than this, and I think it'll get better. But I also think there's a ceiling to how good this team can be with the talent they have right now. We'll see if they get Devontae Adams or somebody else. I still have that pipe dream that maybe, there's a faster receiver out there somewhere like Tyreek Hill that might pop open if the Dolphins get real bad. That's the kind of game-changing talent they need. Devontae Adams is good, but a guy like Tyreek Hill changes everything. And so that's my pipe dream. That's the kid that can come in here and help this offense really take off. Until
How old's
then,
Tyreek Hill?
he's in his 30s too, but he's still as fast as he ever was. You watch him in these games, dude. He's still got it.
Would you want him as a rental or multi-year deal?
I think his contract's 3 more years. I'd take him for 3 more years.
Is it 3? Okay.
2 more after this, so 3 altogether.
I'll
2 more
put
after
it
this.
this way. I think they're so desperate that whether it's Devontae or Hill, take on those years. You can try and negotiate, but they need something now, period. Like to where I'm okay with either one of those guys mentioned, or Slayton too, either one, as long as you get someone. The stipulations of the contract, make it work, man. Get him.
I guarantee you one thing. If Tyreek Hill wasn't on the Pittsburgh Steelers, you would not see loaded boxes anymore. This run game would be instantly better.
You know what? That's a great point.
Yep.
He'd make all the difference in the world. And it doesn't have to be Tyreek Hill. You need
that might be worth the money alone.
Blazing receiver. Someone who's really fast.
Hill is only 30. He's 2 years younger. But bear in mind, he's already a little unhappy with his contract in Miami.
I think he just got it redone, no? He just got it redone.
Yeah,
I know he was griping that Jalen Waddle was getting more money than him.
Oh my God!
I think he got it redone.
How many millions?
Yeah,
did these
106 over 4. You're right, Dave. He did.
Yeah, he got it
right
redone
in August.
He's worth every penny. He changes everything.
We were going to pay Brandon Ayuk more than that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think he's a more impactful receiver than Brandon Ayuk, honestly.
So the Steelers are heading out to Las Vegas this week to face the Raiders. The Raiders are longtime adversaries. You know, they were there when the Steelers made their initial ascent into greatness for the Immaculate Reception, and the Steelers have battled them over the years. I always feel like they're kind of a team that we struggle with, weirdly, even when we shouldn't. And I know that we brought it up on the show before. Bob loves to talk about the 3-game losing streak that seems to happen every season. And, you know, could we be facing that this week if we lose with this other, you know, another kind of trap game? We'll also be going back to see our old friend Robert Spillane, who is like morphed into a beautiful butterfly on the Raiders and has become like really like this spiritual and inspirational leader on this team, which I think is amazing for him. He's a nice guy. I'm glad he's doing well. But other than him and Max Crosby, they're kind of not the greatest team in the world. You know, they aren't somebody we should be so scared of, but we tend to struggle. So where are you guys? Dave, where are you with this game? What are your big matchups to watch? What are you worried about or excited to see?
Well, can I just piggyback on your Spillane thing? I mean, I heard Tomlin in his press conference just gush and gush and gush about Robert Spillane. You could have had him for peanuts. If you loved him that much, why did you cut him? I don't understand. And he's having a great. I think he's got 54 tackles, a sack, and interception this year.
In 2 seasons, he's done more, or a season and a half or whatever it is, he's done more in Las Vegas than he did in 4 years in Pittsburgh. All of his stats are way more. Doubled sacks, tackles.
Another player that leaves Pittsburgh and his career takes off.
Astronomically better.
Right? It's mind-blowing. I said this last week, and I hesitate to say it again. This is a game they should win easily. Easily. The Raiders, they're going to stop Aiden O'Connell, who's a terrible quarterback. I mean, let's be honest. Their quarterback situation in Las Vegas is terrible. Their running game is non-existent. I think their leading rusher had 152 yards rushing this season. Devontae Adams isn't going to play. He's their best wide receiver. Guys, what happens if they lose this game?
This is, I'm hearing trap game and things like that. Don't get it twisted. This is a must win. This is a must win. You're 3-2. You go 3-3, you're probably going to drop behind the Ravens into second place after starting 3-0 and having a 2-game lead in the division. They have to win this game. Lest we not forget what's coming after the bye week. This is a must win. This cannot be a trap game. If it is a trap game, and this is the 7th year in a row that we lose 3 games in a row, because 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, if 2024 has another 3-game losing streak, we're not making the playoffs.
No, I think you could say if they lose to the Raiders, they're not making the playoffs. I know it's a long season to come, but It's a devastating loss if they lose this game.
Yeah. Hey, I wanted to read this. This is the injury report from yesterday. A lengthy Raiders injury report today with 16 players listed, including 7 who did not practice. And among them was Max Crosby, Jacoby Myers, Devontae Adams, Colton Miller, Jackson Powers-Johnson, and Zamir White. I was looking at this and, like, guys, 5 out of their 6 wide receivers are hurt or on the IR already. Both their left tackle and right tackle are hurt. This should be a game where TJ Watt absolutely feeds, man, just absolutely kills them. The defense should shut this completely down with Aiden O'Connell out there on top of it. There's just, it shouldn't have, and this is the part that makes me angry. This is where I should be like, this should be an easy Steelers stomping, but I know it won't be. Want to know why? Because the passing game sucks. We're not putting up a lot of points. Their passing game is actually technically better than ours. Now, the whole Aiden O'Connell thing kind of throws a wrench in that, but their rushing sucks. The only difference between us and them is defense. Our defense is way better. And that's it. But I can't trust it. It's just hard for me to think the Steelers are actually going to stomp anybody now.
Every single thing you guys have said makes me more and more concerned. And let's be very clear about something. We need to humble ourselves. We need to earn the right for this to even be a trap game. We haven't played enough where this is a should win for the Steelers yet. And a should win is the only way you can have a trap game. So this is not a trap game. This is more what Bob. This is a must win kind of football game. And every single positive for us, every injury that Las Vegas has, it's another reason for us to play down. And I'm going to use another term that I think I should use instead of play down. It's another reason for us to not be prepared like we should be. And that's what I'm thinking it is. It's not us playing down to people. It's the simple fact that and I don't know if it's Mike Tomlin, I don't know if it's self-policing in the players, I don't know if it's coordinators, I don't know if it's an organizational thing. When we know we should win a game, we don't try as hard as we should. Not in the game, in prep. And that matters more than anything. And so that's a damning statement for an organization that's supposed to be as storied as ours, that's supposed to be as stable as ours, that we simply don't prepare when we feel like we got that test down. And so a lot of issues this season are arrogance. The nickel cornerback slot, the wide receiver slot. There's pockets of arrogance I wasn't expecting to pop up this season. So I'm genuinely concerned. I don't care about what our team does at this point. How bad our passing game is, the fact that we should be able to beat the Raiders means that I don't know if we will.
Where do you stand with the Raiders game, Bob? What are you worried about?
I'm worried about the fact that our edge rushers besides TJ are hurt. I mean, the strength of this defense is the edge rushers. No Alex, no Herbig, no Leal. Isaiah Loudermilk at outside linebacker? Are you kidding me? I mean,
wait for it. It's coming.
They said that's part of the plan.
Yeah.
So I'm worried about this. I'm worried about from a defensive perspective. I think we're going to have to score to beat the Raiders. I think this is going to be a lot more high scoring than anybody thinks it's going to be. I could see this being a high 20s, low 30s type of game because I don't think we're going to be able to bring the pressure we need. I think they're going to put 9 guys on TJ, put 1 guy in the pass pattern, and, let's face it, the way Joey Porter's been playing, that might be a pretty good strategy. I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball on us, and they better not be able to run the ball on us. But I do have some fear in the passing game that our secondary is not good enough to just go out and beat somebody. They need the pressure. So Cam Hayward's going to have a big game. TJ Watt's going to have a big game. Keanu Benton, I'm looking at you. I need you to get that pressure up the middle because it ain't coming off the edge this time. It's not.
Now, my mother always told me to never bring up a problem unless you have a solution for it. So we know for a fact that our edge rushers are going to be an issue, and our secondary right now, I don't have a lot of faith in them to hold up and get those coverage sacks that our pass rush was getting before. So do you guys have any off the wall ideas? Do you bring Peyton Wilson in more? Do you move people around? Do you say, Minka, I know you're going to be upset about this, but we need to move you around to different areas. You're not going. What do you do to make sure that this secondary can kind of hold up to the best chance? Because if you're Terrell Austin, you're going to make Thomas like, well, our secondary can't hold up. That's my plan. And walks out of the room. That's not a plan. So is there anything that our secondary can do to make it easier on these pass rushers?
Well, I think just playing the Raiders is going to be. They don't have very good wide receivers either, right? I mean, Jacoby Myers is out, could be out. Devontae Adams isn't playing. I'd say this is where we're going to find out how good Joey Porter Jr. and the other corner is, but they're not going to be tested in this game. I don't think the Raiders wide receivers aren't very good. I don't expect Bob. I don't expect a high scoring game. They shouldn't be able to move the ball on the Steelers even without Highsmith or Herbig.
Well, they do have one big weapon who is playing.
Yeah, I know what you're going to say.
Brock Bowers,
yep.
And that's not a position we have defended well for the last 2 years.
But if that's all you have to really concern yourself with,
but
and maybe Peyton Wilson helps with that.
How many times have we said that, though?
Yeah, we say it.
I know, Dave.
It's been, 2.5 weeks straight? I have watched Landon Roberts schemed into coverage. And if they watch that and they're like, oh, we can get Brock Bowers on a Landon Roberts is going to be a laughable mismatch. And that's not saying anything about what a Landon Roberts can do. Because we can put Peyton Wilson on there. We can put Patrick Queen out there and say, hey, but it's been very apparent. So it's on Terrell Austin. Terrell Austin has to not get out-schemed. He has to out-scheme someone. So
that happens all the time.
It is a prove-it thing for not just the players. These coaches have to put these players in a position to succeed. It's not fair to simply say these players have to do. These coaches have to get these guys ready.
The good news is Antonio Pierce is not a good head coach, and Luke Getsy, the offensive coordinator, is not a good offensive coordinator. He was the OC for the Browns for the last 3 years, and they were, the Bears, they were a train wreck. So this is one game where I don't fear the Steelers being greatly outcoached, which makes me feel better about it.
Right.
A lot of turmoil, too. There's a lot of turmoil going on.
Yeah, Antonio Pierce is out there going after his players. And
there's a better chance Pierce will get in a fight with Brock Bowers than for Brock Bowers to get to 150 yards.
Something, man. Tell you,
But I will say this just real quick, Dave. I don't forget a Landon Roberts, Zach. Peyton Wilson is that a mismatch against Brock Bowers? There is no player on the Steelers who would not be at a mismatch against Bowers.
Well,
There's
there
our
is one.
virtual.
Minka.
What do you think?
You put Minka on him.
I think he's too big for Minka. I think he's way too big for Minka. And that's not a knock just against our defense. I mean, the guy's already got 300 yards receiving as a tight end. I mean, he may be the best tight end in football already. I always thought in college it would maybe take him a full season to get there. I think he's getting close to already there. He had a huge game last week. Even though they got blown out, I think he had like 100 and something yards receiving and their only touchdown.
I'll say this. If he is their only legitimate weapon and Terrell Austin cannot find a way to stop a team with only one legitimate weapon, I don't care. If that is legitimately true, if we do not have to worry about anybody else. And by the way, I remember years where who was it, Ben Hogan or whatever, the random name of that Patriots receiver who destroyed us that game? I don't care about depth receiving. The Steelers are bad against depth receivers. I care about whether Terrell Austin can legitimately just shut down one guy. Just one. That's all. Austin, one guy. Just Bowers. So, because if he's really that good, then you put three guys on him. You put Mika on him, and you put a Landon on him, and you put Wilson on him.
Yeah.
Peyton Wilson was on Arthur Moats' show today, and he was asking him like what his favorite play was that he ever made, and he said it was a interception he had last year for a touchdown against Clemson, and he said he's so eager to do that in Pittsburgh, and he said but he never gets a chance because TJ and all of them get to the ball way too fast. So Moats said, well, maybe this is your week, with just TJ, and so he said that he used to play offense in high school, and he loves having the ball in his hands. So maybe this will be his week where he finally is able to kind of step up and have a big game. Before we go, let's talk some predictions for this Raiders game. I'll go first since I'm already talking. I'm going to say Steelers 21-10. I disagree with Bob. I don't think it'll be a high-scoring game. I think the Steelers will score. I think the Steelers' defense is going to bring it this week. I heard Cam Hayward talk about it this morning. He felt like their big mistake against Dallas, everybody was talking about the third down, the third downs that they were allowing. He said he really thinks the issue is with the first and second downs. They're not making big enough plays at that point. It's allowing them to get to these third down situations that they're then able to convert. And so I thought that was pretty astute. So he talked about them recognizing the adjustments that they need to make, really feeling sick to the stomach about how much effort they put out getting all of these turnovers and then not being able to shut him down there at the end. So, and I kind of expect if we play George Pickens, I think it's on brand for him to come out this week and have a good game. I think that's his MO. I expect it to happen. I think if Justin Fields starts, I agree with Dave that he's playing for his, career. This is the biggest game of his career. So 21-10 Steelers. Dave, what about you?
I did this last week, and I'm going to do it again. I'm predicting the Steelers big. I'm going to say 31-13. I think Justin Fields breaks out in this game. I agree with Leanne. I think George Pickens has a big game because they're going to force feed him the ball to shut everybody up, which they should be doing anyway, but that's beside the point. I think the defense gets a couple turnovers. I don't respect the Raiders at all. I don't think they're a very good football team. I think they're a poorly coached football team. Guys, if they lose this game, you don't want to be in the room with me. You honestly don't. I'm going to be beyond angry. This should be an easy one.
I hope you're like this with legendary picks as well. Anyways, this game's going to be close. It's going to be stressful. It's going to be shit. That's what it's going to be. I'm going to go 18-15, some weird 18-15 score. We're going to be ready to pull our eyeballs out. The offense is going to struggle. The defense is Bowers is probably going to have 150 yards receiving. It's going to be one of those ordeals. 18-15. I'm done with the whole they're going to win big. I've moved on from that.
You think they'll win though? 18-15.
18-15. They'll cover. It's
6 field goals? It wouldn't surprise me.
It would. Look, all bets are off with this team. I'm not. It's going to be close. I'm done with this.
I think the Steelers, O'Connell will find a way to give the ball to the defense, and they'll score for the first time this year. I think it's going to be a lot closer in the fourth quarter than we think. I think it'll be a 24-19-ish game in the fourth quarter, and the defense will get a score to seal it. I'm going 31-19 Steelers.
I have predicted the Steelers to have over 30 points in 2 weeks. That hasn't gone the way I was hoping. So I'm going to go the opposite way. It's going to be a low scoring and an ugly game. I'm expecting our defense to have to help us in this one, and it's probably going to be, I'll say 17-7 Steelers. I'm not expecting a lot to happen, but I will say I am expecting us to let them score on the opening drive like we normally do, and then our defense to get a shit together and shut them down for the game. I'm used to opening drive scores from the Steelers defense. It's after that I think about stuff happening.
If you listened to the show this long, we really appreciate it. You can see all of our Twitter handles or X handles under our name. Give us a follow. Follow the Steelers Sanctuary and the Steelers Sanctuary podcast. Also on Twitter. Like, share, and subscribe to the podcast on YouTube. If you're watching the show, we'd love for you to drop us a comment. Give us your score prediction. Tell us what you think. You can make fun of Bob for any of his ridiculous takes. We are open to all of it. So let us know what you think. We appreciate it. We'll see you on the other side.
And from our entire Steelers Sanctuary family to every single person affected by the hurricane who's still dealing with it, please, I hope everybody is safe, gets to a safe area, and that life gets back to normal as quickly as possible.
Just smile and wave, boys. Smile and wave.